Yeah, that's a little bit better. We're almost on a par. Now, our next speaker, of our 3 speakers, I approached them all on LinkedIn and say, will you be my friend? Unfortunately, I'm still holding in friend purgatory for John. I tried to be your friend, genuinely. So I'm following him, and I'm like, please be my friend. But John Brown is one of the leaders of the B Corp movement, and he genuinely lives this. So rather than take a plane, which costs him £50, he takes a train. He's a fan of slow travel. I've done my research, I've looked into it. You would like to be a mountain leader if you have spare time. Indeed you would. And I'm going to say this, he's a shining example of how it's possible for a business to balance profit with people and planet. He is a dad of 2, a husband to 1, and a founder of Don't Cry Wolf. And he's about to tell us all why brands have to give a shit. Everybody, please make a rapturous amount of noise for Mr. John Brown.
Hello everybody. Wow. So look, there needs to be a disclaimer first. So first thing, there's a few things that are going to happen. I'm 17.5 stone. So about 5 minutes into this presentation, I'm just going to start sweating profusely. We've got to all live with that. We'll be absolutely fine. Second thing, I do have a really great grasp of the British vocabulary. But unfortunately, fuck is still my favourite word, in the words of Billy Connolly. So there will be littered with obscenities throughout this. And the other thing is that I have prepared a presentation, and I can assure you that I'm going to go down some weird little rabbit holes. Just follow me, we're in this together, and it'll be fine. It'll be okay, we'll get through this. If you want to, oh look at that, fantastic. So if you want to heckle me, or follow me, or apparently just be ghosted by me on LinkedIn, or take a look at our online channels with Don't Cry Wolf, then by all means, please do. Don't Cry Wolf is like a little irritating brand activism agency where we kind of work with challenging brands to sort of poke at society issues and potentially have a little pop at the bigger guys and have some fun while we're doing it. Based in London and Truro, so yeah, wanted to be a mountain leader, moved to fucking the flattest place on the planet to wander around in Cornwall, but yeah, it's a great little agency, check it out. Oh, that sounds shit, isn't it? Great little agency, check it out. Thank you very much. Oh, this looks interesting. So what I wanted to do was to try and embed what I'm going to talk about today in some inspiration. And who here has watched Fight Club? Yeah. You definitely have. Okay, there's some of you that haven't. Honestly, I wouldn't be offended if you got up now and went to watch that film, because it will change your life, probably more so than what I'm about to say as well. But one of the main characters within Fight Club is this wonderful being, Tyler Durden, and played by Brad Pitt, which, you know, there's obviously some similarities on stage here. If Brad Pitt had sort of been half a foot shorter, bald, and had discovered like complex carbohydrates, this would be me. But there's some really inspirational quotes that he says in the film, which I think relate really well to what brands need to understand in order to actually give a shit and put some authenticity and efficacy behind their comms and their marketing and their branding. So I've chosen a select few that I'm going to run through today, and we'll use these as our muse as we go on this magical little journey. So quote 1, sticking feathers up your arse does not make you a chicken. I'm lead with this. This is a really, really important quote for me. We are in this wonderful era where there's a kind of palpable recognition that brands and organisations need to do a touch more than just earn a shitload of cash and kind of bugger off into the ether. Like, we all feel this sense of ownership or purpose, right? That we need to kind of perhaps contribute a little bit more to society, perhaps try and look at how we could solve or at least not add more damage to some of these broader planetary issues. The challenge we have is that brands on the whole, and certainly like C-suite executives and marketing folk like myself, are really fucking lazy. So whilst we project this magnificent image of wanting to do good, where we find ourselves in is this horrible little gap between intent and action. And with all the best will in the world, we've seen some pretty horrific examples recently of where a brand or an organisation or a business has spent time and money and effort telling the world what they're going to do, how they're going to solve everything, and then following up with very little action. Boohoo's a good example. Right, Boohoo's a great example, actually. So 2017, 2018, big statement made. We are signing up to this act that will ban slavery in the fashion world. 2019, article in the Independent reveals that half of their staff are paid something like £1.30 for a day's worth of work. That's a pretty aggressive intent versus action gap. There's other sort of softer, lighter, fluffier intent versus action gaps, right? Tree washing or wish planting is one. We all love a tree. I love trees. Anyone else? Say it. I love trees. I love trees, right? We love trees. Of course we love trees. The thing is, we're using trees as a bit of a marketing model now, aren't we? Right? A recent one, and I'm sorry if you're in this room, in a way, but, you know, Logan Air. You can fly all over Scotland with Logan Air. Don't worry about it. It's carbon neutral, because they plant a tree. All you have to do is pay a quid, and that's it. And not only that, apparently these magic trees, well, they don't take 30 or 40 years to grow and then suck out 1 tonne of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. They just fucking plant a massive one, apparently. And magically, the emissions, it literally is the emissions as the aircraft's flying, it's just being sucked out by this tree that only cost a quid. I mean, it's staggering, right? So we have this real issue here where, and unfortunately what that does is that it gets people like you and I and the general public, gets them worried. Because it feels like, I want to believe you. I want to feel as though you're doing some good. But don't pull the wool over my eyes. Be a bit more authentic. Be a bit more honest. Trust in me that I'm not going to batter you around the head if you fuck up a little bit. Actually, it's quite human to do that, right? It's quite human to have a few errors. But don't try and pull the wool over my eyes. I mean, there's some other naughty buggers. I've listed them. Naughty buggers. Right? Still like it as a brand. I still like it. I mean, I drive a VW camper. I will, no. It's a white one as well. I actually looked really predatory. I had a really long beard at some stage, and it just was a bad look. VW, lying about its emissions, talking about how they're going to be the next green thing. In fact, the car industry is perhaps quite a good example of this sort of intent versus action gap. We are all positively wetting ourselves about EV cars, aren't we? Breathlessly falling over ourselves to jump into the VW, whatever it is, and the Tesla, if you can afford a Tesla, motoring around in a fucking spaceship, amazing, powered by the farts of angels. It's amazing, right? The last IPCC report that we read, the last one, the sixth report, the one that kind of gave us the sort of this is what you need to do, didn't just say you needed to switch to EV cars. It says you shouldn't have a car at all. This is the challenge, right? For the car industry, let's say, for the automotive industry. It's not about how do we sell more EV cars to more people, because that will help. Actually, the IPCC report made it quite clear. They need to reduce the amount of cars, full stop, by half at the same rate at which it's expected to increase by 70%. That's a conundrum that we have to solve. So by 2050, the IPCC report is saying cars need to reduce by half globally, and all of the projections say they're going to increase by 70%. This is the challenge. This is intent versus action gap. So when VW or whoever you might be are looking to make these big claims, think about it. Can you live up to it? Is there something smarter than you could be doing? Could you be doing a car sharing scheme through one of these organisations? Could you actually be leaning into the facts and the detail and do the hard work first rather than sort of spraying a marketing campaign around the place? Same with H&M, man. I mean, fucking hell, don't tell half the world to turn up and hand in their old clothes and then set fire to 95% of them. Talking about how that was a circular economy. No, come on. And this is what I mean, you've got to get more cognizant around what the actual challenges, what the actual issues are. And there's real kind of meat behind this, right? And we work with GWI, Global Web Index. You guys heard of it? It's a cool little tool. Go and check it out. It basically sort of surveys the entire population of the world somehow. But every month they release more data. And yet we asked, what would discourage you from buying a brand? Over half the respondents said, don't treat your staff like shit. Treat them well. Give them what they deserve. 44% bad media. Bad media. Right? Poor press coverage, negative press coverage. So don't lie. Don't just tee yourself up with a campaign just to get battered away in the press. Have some thought around it. And over a third, looking at greenwashing as a real issue for them. For why they wouldn't buy a brand. What would stop them from doing that? So before you go off and talk about your fucking bamboo coffee cups or whatever it might be that you've put in place, your plastic-free offices, which is admirable and it's wonderful and it's fantastic. But here's a stat for you, right? There's 52 billion tons of CO2 emissions released into the atmosphere, right? You as an individual, and if you are an average diesel-guzzling individual, contribute 0.0 to the power of 3% to that global emissions. So if your offices have switched from plastic coffee cups to bamboo coffee cups, it's wonderful. It's not the best thing in the world that's ever happened to solve climate change. So just dial it down a bit. Yeah? Next one. If you don't claim your humanity, you become a statistic. I think brands, or organisations' biggest opportunity today is vulnerability. Being vulnerable. It's the greatest opportunity and it takes the greatest amount of bravery as a brand. Because when you're building trust with a human being, first thing you do, if you really, really want to start on an even keel, show some vulnerability, man. That's why I get up on stage and talk about my weight and my sweating and my magnificent grasp of the English language. But it's true. Show some vulnerability. Because vulnerability is humanity. People actually kind of reject perfection in a way these days. We're not after perfection. It's weird. It freaks me out. Right? We don't look for perfection and things. Oh, it's a bit too unattainable. What we look for is humanity. What we look for is understanding. What we look for is vulnerability and authenticity behind that vulnerability. So what does that mean? Well, if we go back to what we were just talking about around a sort of projection to what we might do to help save the planet, share it by all means, but then fucking hell, report on it. Report on your journey. Give us an update. I think it was something like 90 of the FTSE 100 have made some form of commitment to being carbon neutral by some distant future. 7 have reported on it. This is the difference, right? And why? Because they are consumed with fear. And I'm sorry, folks, we do have a little bit of Greta to blame on that as well, right? Because she's got to take a little bit of responsibility on that, because what happens is someone goes, oh, I'm sorry, I dropped some rubbish out there, and then an army of people on Twitter go, you bastard! You've ruined everything. The whole thing was leaning on that piece of rubbish. So there is a culture of fear created around that. But equally, leaning into that, being transparent, being vulnerable, showcasing that journey. Thank you very much. What happened?
I have no idea.
Is it saving power? This is Greta. I'm going to carry on anyways. So look, this whole concept is around showcasing your vulnerability. What that makes you is then fearless. It makes you fearless. And the reason why it makes you fearless is because anyone who criticises you has to rise up to your level of transparency first to have that open conversation. So if you are eminently transparent, you're showing warts and all, what that gives you is a sense of total authenticity, and it gives you this sense of trust, and it makes you impervious to pain. Because it's like, you want to chat? Step up. Show me the fucking receipts first, like I've shown mine, and then we'll chat. It's a really powerful position for brands to adopt. Some stats here, which I'm coming. So, and back onto those GWI stats, right? 75% of consumers look for authenticity in a brand. Sorry, reliability in a brand. 45, I could have said what the fuck I wanted then, didn't I? There's no stats. 100% of people fucking adore me. 71% of people surveyed said that they look for reliability in a brand. A further 45% said they look for authenticity. If you can get those things through transparency, you're onto a fucking winner. Be brave, step up. Show your workings out. So, being cognizant of the fact that you're the same decaying organic matter as everything else is really important. And this is the reason why. And this isn't sort of, I wish this was like, I don't know, my bank balance or my sense of self-worth or something along those lines. So slowly creeping up. Obviously we know what this figure is, right? It's sort of the ground warming, the ground temperature on the planet. There's this great sort of sense of understanding or kind of peace you make when you realise that you're the same as everything else. That not everything's a sort of exclusive club. And I'm going to talk about exclusive clubs of do-gooders in a moment. And actually one of the most powerful things that we're seeing right now from a marketing or brand activism perspective is organisations who lean into the idea that they're not going to sell more shit to more motherfuckers. What they're going to do is sell us something once, okay, sometimes at a bit of a higher price, but that's going to last, and it's going to be repaired for life. And there's going to be a service plan around it you don't have to pay for that actually enables you to make sure that you can hand that down to someone else. Because all they look for is the garment or the object or the thing. You don't need the receipt. And there's a warranty behind that. I think that's pretty cool, right? It shows a sense of understanding that you're not looking for this sort of single use, throw it away, discard it. It actually puts some effort on your side as a brand, and you have to do the hard work these days. It's like, we're going to put a service plan in place. We're going to make sure that actually if you are returning something, or if you want to kind of hand something back in exchange for credit, we'll have a separate sale over here that allows the products to be sold at a cheaper price, to make it more accessible to more people. These are the sort of things which I look for. I don't necessarily look for the amount of polyester or not that is in a jacket, or the amount of, I don't know, poor water that was used in the creation of something. What I look for is this going to last? Is this going to last well? Is it going to be reused? Can I hand it down to someone? Can I get it repaired? This era of circularity is much more powerful than adding in another stat around just how much less plastic you use than your latest competitor. Yeah? There's brands doing this well. Patagonia, I fucking love Patagonia. I do. I'm just one of those silly wankers you see dripping in it, walking along the road with a matcha tea latte. That's me. And then at 3 a.m. just smashing a Big Mac. No. I still care. No. Patagonia, Hyatt Denim, a little closer to home. You guys heard of Hyatt Denim? Yeah. Yeah? Well, I mean, one of the main things I love about them, so there's a little denim company based out of Wales. Buy a pair of jeans, send it back over and over again, get it repaired, get it patched up, get it redone, get it rehemmed, whatever it might be. It's got a life cycle in it. They're now looking at how they can go ahead and launch a used scheme. Patagonia, their used scheme is tremendously important for them because they are a pricey brand, but they're trying to make it a little more accessible, and they're trying to make sure that they're reducing their waste in a smart way. So think about this. Okay, I talked about do-gooders club. And I am fighting this. You can see on LinkedIn today. I have written a very, very ranty post about this. This is an evolution as well as a bit of a revolution in terms of, like, hurry the fuck up, we need to do this to make this count. What I mean is, we're going to fail, we're going to trip up, there's going to be hurdles. And where I'm getting concerned is that there is a group of organisations rising to the top, or certainly shouting the loudest, who are saying, we're really good, and you can't be as good as us, because we're the goodest. And so therefore, if you're not as good as us, then you need to just fuck off. And the problem is, for a movement to be genuinely powerful, for a brand to have genuine activism, it needs to be inclusive. It needs to embrace people from all walks of life, organisations of all shapes and sizes, in order to actually bring about genuine change. So if we look at B Corp, or UN SDGs, who's heard of B Corp? Okay, cool, wicked. So look, it's a certification framework. It's a framework for assessing environment, social impact, and your governance. That's it, in a nutshell. Right? And it evolves with the community, and it gets more and more rigorous, and it's independently verified, and it's the first step to improvement. Being B Corp certified is not the fucking destination. Any brand that's telling you that is using B Corp as a USP, nothing more. They don't genuinely want change, they just want another badge so they can sell more shit. But what B Corp offers is a framework for continuous improvement, and this is what we should be leaning into. What it's not is a do-gooders club, because that doesn't bring about genuine change. So, from a competitive perspective, if you're a brand, and leaning back into this idea of vulnerability, embrace competitors. Go do the hard work. Walk around discussing your ideas, your concepts with them. If you genuinely believe in change, and you genuinely want to see that systemic change come around, then lean into it. Don't be afraid. Nespresso and Evian have recently become B Corp certified. And there are organisations positively soiling themselves on every single social media platform in absolute despair at how the plastic water bottle and, I don't know, George Clooney can be B Corp certified. There's nothing wrong with George Clooney. Perfectly affable chap, surely. But, you know, because of all of the damage that the pods did and things like that. What they're saying is, what the undercurrent is of these brands, and they tend to be either small coffee brands or small water brands, is this. You've taken away my USP, and I don't like it. Because if they were genuinely believing in an inclusive environment for systemic change, they would be using the platform that they have to work with the big ugly bastards like Nespresso and Evian to bring about that change. Folks, I have 20 people in my agency, right? My impact is this. If I got my knickers in a twist when Havas got B Corp certified, it would be fucking ludicrous. Because they hire so many more people than I do. They have such a bigger impact than I do. So I've got to embrace it. I don't like the bastards, but I've got to embrace it. I've got to work with them. And this is what's really, really important. If you're going to be part and parcel of this movement, be part of the movement. Don't reach a destination and go, this is my space, fuck off. Be a part of it. Be a beacon. Embrace it. Work with each other. Do those collabs, those cool little collaborations. They're wicked. People love them. Proper lean into it. You're not your fucking car keys. Love this quote. If anyone wants to know about why they shouldn't be talking more about their product, and I mean, especially if you work in cloud computing, by the way. Anyone work in cloud computing? In software as a service? No? But, you know, going to every software as a service or cloud computing meeting, well, we are 17% faster than the last competitor. What does that mean? I don't... So? Well, you know, it's 0.007 milliseconds faster than the competitor. No one gives a shit because you've lost a kind of You've lost any sort of form of reality here. What people care about are values, and your values. This is from Edelman. Very small agency. All right, they're the largest PR agency in the world. Bastards. But this is from their Trust Barometer report, right? You know, not just how people are buying from brands these days, but people who are prepared to dish out cash to fund those brands care about the values that they represent, care about the work that they're doing to showcase who they are in their soul. They buy into it. 70% of people today would take up a different job, even in today's climate, this was a recent study done with Edelman, for a slight reduction in salary if they thought that they were getting an increase in representation from the brand that they were working with, so that that brand represented their values better. We do it. We are a competitive payer. I can't pay as much as Edelman. We still get people come to us. Why? Because they believe in what we're doing. Really, really important to think about. Final one. This is your pain, your burning hand. Look at it. And all this means is, before you even dare embark on a brand activism campaign, or telling the world what they should be doing, or talking about how many trees you've got in your backyard, have a look at yourself first. It takes about, I don't know, a couple of grand to do a carbon footprint, and also to do a social audit of your own organisation. At least fucking do that. At least understand what your baseline is first before you dare to embark on telling others what they should do. The amount of brands that I have to turn down at brief because they're like, we're going to go and tell the world that they should be using 40% less of this. I'm like, but you've got 80% of it in your fucking organisation. That's it, you know. But we want to tell them, and then we'll change. Well, what does that say? You change first, and then I might do it. Do the hard work first. Understand yourself first. This is your pain. Look at it. Stare it in the eyes. Wrestle with it. Get to grips with it. And then communicate. Then be the change around it. Right. That's about me. I'm exhausted myself. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, just a question on that last thing you mentioned about turning down clients. Presumably, I guess sometimes said it's like, well, we want to sell more stuff. Is that kind of, I guess, inherent in marketing, sales targets? Is that something that comes into your decisions?
So this is where marketing is fundamentally hamstrung, and this is what we are consistently pushing for, which is that the current measurement for marketing efficacy is how many sales did that bring in. And you know, we are slowly but surely moving towards, I hope, a triple bottom line economy, where you have to report on your environmental impact, your societal impact, as well as your profit margin. And as that comes through, and there's something called the Better Business Act, if you don't know it, go and take a look, but it's something that's being really, really campaigned for right now, which will mandate that this happens in the UK for any limited company. As that comes through, organisations are going to have to report on those elements, and more are doing so. So our metrics are starting to change. So a campaign that we worked with with Meridian Peanut Butter wasn't to sell more peanut butter to people. It was actually to try and bring back into conversation the damage that palm oil does in products. That was one of the core measures of the campaign. So I think we're starting to see it come through. We have to also ask the question, like, we have to be bold enough to push back and say, okay, look, yes, sales is meant, like, I'm a for-profit organisation. I sell shit as well. I don't worry about that. What I worry is if that's in total isolation at the expense of everything else, then it's a problem. And it's looking at it holistically from that perspective.
Thanks.
Any other questions? No? Wonderful. Folks, thank you so much. I really love being here. See you all.